you are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head.
Why is Madonna walking into a courtroom with her signature shades not to dodge paparazzi, but to face off against Sean Diddy Combs, a man now synonymous with scandal? That's the question that has electrified Hollywood's inner circle and sent shockwaves through the music industry. The queen of reinvention, a woman who has danced through decades of controversy with barely a bruise to her crown, has stepped straight into a legal battlefield where reputations are already turning to dust. And this isn't some symbolic gesture. She's not testifying on behalf of an old friend. No, if insiders are right, she may be helping build a case against one of the most powerful men in hip-hop, while also trying to claw back control over her own narrative. Because let's face it, when Madonna walks into a courtroom, she's not just a witness, she's a strategist.
That's the one. I think that we just got caught up. I think we all got caught up in a moment. We was talking about it and having secret meetings.
But here's where things turn murky. Because even as she takes the stand, trying to portray herself as a clean observer to a sordid empire, a flurry of whispers refuses to fade away. Rumors are swirling like wildfire that Madonna wasn't merely a bystander to Diddy's notorious freak-off parties. She may have been a regular guest. Multiple sources from the late-night party circuit suggest she wasn't just passing through these infamous gatherings for a sip of sparkling apple juice and a photo op. She was allegedly part of the inner circle, networking, watching, maybe even documenting. Some say she used these events as a chessboard to mingle with industry titans, extract secrets, and position herself as untouchable. Others? They wonder if she was gathering material, insurance of sorts, in case the whole thing ever came crashing down. And now that it has, guess who's already standing at a safe distance from the blast zone? What's particularly striking is the timing. Diddy's trial kicked off in early May. By mid-May, Madonna's name was already being muttered under the breath of courtroom observers. Not as a defendant, not as an accused, but as someone who might know too much. What kind of dirt could she possibly be holding? And why come forward now, after years of silence? Some believe she's seizing the moment to play the role of the truth teller, to emerge as the woman who dared to expose an empire of secrets. Others aren't so charitable. There's a theory gaining traction, whispered in DMS, murmured at private dinners, that Madonna's move is pure self-preservation, that she's getting ahead of a narrative before it steamrolls her legacy into the ground. And let's not forget, in this trial, celebrity names are being thrown around like confetti. Ye, Usher, Mike Myers, Michelle Williams, Michael B. Jordan. Even Kid Cudi's name came up alongside that bizarre and terrifying detail about his car exploding in his driveway. The list is long and growing, so when Madonna's name started circulating, nobody blinked. But everybody leaned in.
That was all the people that went to the Puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, you...
Now let's talk about those parties. Diddy's infamous freak-offs, allegedly fueled by stimulant mixes and whispered pressure. These weren't just parties. They were influence rituals. The kind of thing you hear about and assume can't possibly be real until the court transcripts prove otherwise. According to testimony from Cassie Ventura and others, these nights blurred every line between performance and exploitation, between agency and control, between fame and fear. Multiple witnesses described scenes where power brokers in the room just looked away, or worse, participated. And somewhere in that haze of oil and silence, it's being alleged that celebrities weren't just complicit. Some were strategic. Some were collecting. Some were quietly documenting, and this is where Madonna's name emerges again, not as an accessory to crime, but as someone who allegedly understood the stakes early. One former bad boy insider, a mid-level exec who since jumped labels, claims Madonna was never reckless, that she kept her eyes open and played it safe, but played it smart. Another name dropper from that same orbit went further. She was at the party, but she was never of the party. That's why she's testifying. And she's not trying to bury Diddy, she's trying to erase herself from the frame. Is it damage control? Is it guilt? Is it both?
Will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication.
There's also the unsettling speculation, hard to ignore, that Diddy and Madonna may have struck a deal years ago when both were at the top of their respective kingdoms. According to one anonymous music journalist who claims to have seen old BlackBerry messages between reps for both artists, there may have been an informal understanding. Access for access, silence for silence. Some kind of Cold War pact where damaging material gathered at parties could be used to keep outsiders or rivals quiet. If you believe those who've worked with her, Madonna has always known how to keep a dossier. The right pictures, the right moments, the right leverage. And now, the theory goes, that cachet might be saving her from becoming collateral in the biggest celebrity trial of the decade. Because here's the reality, Diddy's defense is cracking. With over 50 lawsuits piling up, multiple assistants flipping, and now even former stars like Terrence Howard and Ray J hinting at dark truths, the silence is imploding. Howard has already gone on record to say Diddy invited him over under bizarre pretenses, allegedly tried to seduce him, and left him shaken. Ray J, meanwhile, claims that high-profile celebrities, names we all know, are already cutting secret deals, paying off victims, doing whatever it takes to avoid being named in court. And we're talking big names. Some from movies, some from politics, some from music, who, until now, seemed bulletproof.
How you know to be hands-off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. You know, when you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept.
So if that's the environment, then Madonna stepping forward isn't just a move, it's a maneuver. She's not alone either, according to at least one retired PR fixer. 2 more female celebrities from the 90s era have contacted lawyers in the past month, quietly, preemptively. They're watching what happens with Madonna, the source told a podcast last week. If she lands this clean, it opens the door for others to step forward and reset the record. Reset the record, that's a sanitized way of saying rewrite history before someone else does it for you. But what happens if that rumored pact between Madonna and Diddy was real? What happens if one or both of them were actively involved in not just attending, but orchestrating aspects of these freak-offs? According to one ex-assistant, there were discussions about who would be at the party, who was allowed to film, and who had the footage. If that's accurate, Madonna may have more than memories. She may have hard evidence. And if the prosecution knows it, that would explain why she's suddenly wearing heels to court instead of to the Met Gala.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
And don't think for a second that Diddy isn't aware. His legal team has already flagged multiple celebrity names they claim are trying to throw him under the bus to save themselves. Madonna's isn't the only one. But hers, perhaps more than any other, could redefine what this trial is really about. Is it a criminal prosecution? Or is it a war over who gets to control the last 20 years of pop culture history? If Madonna's trying to win that war, she's starting early and with courtroom lighting, not concert lighting. A very different kind of spotlight. And as for that alleged blackmail network, if even a shred of it is true, if these parties were wired for audio, or if any of those infamous baby oil bottles were planted with tracking bugs or cameras, then we're no longer talking about scandal. We're talking about infrastructure, about a system designed to entrap, to surveil, to record, not just for kink, for power, for protection, for silence. And suddenly, Madonna testifying, it's not just about justice. It might be the opening move in a much larger game of survival.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking.
Because if this house of cards falls and it's already wobbling, who gets crushed under it? Who walks away untouched? Who has a hard drive in a Swiss vault? Who has a folder labeled in case of scandal? The questions are stacking up fast. And so far, only one pop icon seems willing to answer them under oath. And if the prosecution calls her bluff, if Madonna gets cornered on the stand with questions she wasn't prepared to answer, who she saw, what she heard, what she might have filmed, it won't just be Diddy's reputation that takes a hit. We're looking at a possible toppling of the pyramid. Because her silence isn't just her own, it could be shielding some of the most iconic names in modern entertainment. And if she decides to speak, then the dam might burst. A senior investigator tied to the case has allegedly flagged an interest list, a quiet, classified document filled with figures the prosecution may want to question if new evidence surfaces. The list reportedly includes multiple Grammy winners, at least 2 Oscar-nominated actors, and a high-profile streaming executive known for launching music biopics. This isn't just hearsay, it's reportedly been reviewed by internal legal teams across 3 major talent agencies. because if Madonna opens the door, the rest of the building could collapse.
Stuff. Are you done with Hollywood because of this
No, I
specific
mean,
reason?
I'm still working. I still, I haven't made the money necessary to do all of the other stuff. So I still have to go and do the Chitlin circuit. I still have to do the job that I need to. But eventually, I've done what I set out to do, which was to redefine the universe. I've proven what I've set out to do, and that's why I have all the patents, whether they evaluate it or not.
There's also chatter that the FBI may already have subpoenaed footage from one of the surveillance-heavy parties at Diddy's LA mansion. And if that footage matches up with descriptions provided by former assistants, then the faces in that room won't stay anonymous much longer. According to someone close to the investigation, they weren't using burner phones, they were just assuming no one would talk. But people are talking now. Alleged victims, former stylists, assistants who signed NDAs and are now challenging them. And the longer Madonna stays in this liminal space between witness and enabler, the more questions begin to circle her legacy. Because if she really was there, if she knew what was happening in the rooms upstairs, then what does that say about her decades-long branding as a feminist rebel? A warrior for liberation? A pop prophet who claimed to protect the vulnerable while dancing alongside danger? We're not just talking about the potential legal fallout, we're talking about cultural implosion. If the queen of pop is pulled into the swamp that's already swallowing Diddy, then what happens to the very iconography she spent 40 years building? Her 1,990 Defiance, the Human Nature video, the Super Bowl speeches, the stage monologues about female autonomy. All of it suddenly thrown under a very different kind of spotlight. Does the public still see the rebel, or do they start seeing the enabler? That's the question tearing through social media right now. Already fan pages have begun scrubbing old posts, archive threads are being locked, even some celebrity friends have gone conspicuously silent. Her Instagram, once a rolling reel of boundary-pushing flair, has taken on a noticeably restrained tone in recent weeks. No captions, no commentary, just curated stills with no timestamp.
There's a short life in
Why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take. You're going through so much to try and deal with.
What we're witnessing might not just be a trial, it might be the slow unraveling of a myth. The idea that power can coexist with purity, that you can climb the ladder without stepping on broken people on the way up. And Madonna, who once dared us all to express ourselves without fear, may now be haunted by that exact message. Because if she knew what was happening at those parties, if she saw the signs and said nothing, then the brand she built might become the very ghost that follows her. That kind of contradiction doesn't go unnoticed in the court of public opinion, and in 2025, that court never closes. But what if Madonna wasn't just another celebrity rubbing shoulders with dangerous power? What if she was, in her own way, a prisoner of it? For years, the entertainment world has operated on a brutal, unspoken code: loyalty over truth, silence over consequence. In those velvet rope circles where Diddy ruled, speaking out wasn't just discouraged, it could be career sabotage. If Madonna saw things, if she recognized something darker beneath the glitter, her choice to stay silent might not have been complicity, it might have been survival. Industry insiders have long whispered about the quiet punishments that come with stepping out of line. Blacklisted bookings, slandered press, projects suddenly canceled. Even for someone with Madonna's stature, challenging a mogul like Diddy in his prime would have been like lighting a match in a gasoline storm.
I've lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man card means everything.
This lens changes everything. Instead of a calculated queen protecting her empire, we could be looking at a woman who read the room and realized no one would back her if she pushed too hard. The 90s and early 2000s were hardly a golden age for truth-telling in Hollywood. Whistleblowers were ignored, victims were discredited, and the higher the profile, the tighter the leash. It's not just possible, it's likely that Madonna, branded a provocateur but also constantly policed for every move, decided that staying visible meant staying neutral. She knew the cost of making enemies in elite circles, and if the rumors of her presence at these parties are true, then she likely knew more about the stakes than anyone. This raises a deeper, more uncomfortable question: how many others did the same? How many artists, agents, producers watched what unfolded behind closed doors and chose the easier silence? Madonna's silence, then, becomes a mirror for the whole system, a glaring example of how even the boldest icons can be tamed by the threat of exile, because the truth is, power in Hollywood doesn't always look like a casting couch or a contract. Sometimes it's a whisper that your name will be quietly dropped from the right room, or a warning that your next album won't chart. And sometimes it's an invitation to a party you can't refuse, followed by a secret you can never speak aloud.
I'm seeing him go from his independence to then becoming Puff Daddy, you know what I'm saying? And I got a front row seat.
And so maybe Madonna's testimony isn't just about what happened. Maybe it's about what didn't. The warnings never said, the patterns never named, the questions never asked. If she confesses to witnessing disturbing scenes and says nothing for decades, then we're not just judging her, we're exposing the entire machine that taught her silence was safer than the truth. And in doing so, we're forced to reckon with a chilling possibility that the most powerful woman in pop may have spent years navigating a world where even she wasn't safe enough to scream. Let's not ignore the timing. This trial lands at the exact moment when the veil over Hollywood's inner circles is already threadbare. The lawsuits against Diddy, the lawsuits against music execs, the viral footage, the resurfaced tapes, Terrence Howard's explosive claims, Ray J's allegations that top-tier celebrities are paying victims to stay quiet.
My dad wasn't there in my life as a kid, so all these experiences just readied me for life. So greater than just...
And then there's the Whisper Network. People in private WhatsApp chats and gated voice memos talking about who else might be dragged into this spiral. Some of them have even named Madonna as the bellwether. If she walks away unscathed, maybe others will too. But if she sinks, a lot of people could go under with her. And make no mistake, the prosecution isn't done. The lead attorney reportedly told sources they're looking for pattern witnesses. That means people who may not be direct victims, but can corroborate behavior. People who saw things, heard things, felt the undercurrent of coercion. That's where Madonna becomes dangerous, because she didn't just attend one or two parties. If the rumors are true, she may have had standing access to Diddy's inner sanctum. If that's proven or even convincingly implied under oath, then a wave of subpoenas could follow. The no-comment statements we've been seeing from publicists may soon turn into frantic rebrand. We've already seen this pattern play out with other scandalous collapses: R. Kelly, Weinstein, Russell Simmons. And now with Diddy's alleged network unfolding like a spider web, Madonna's name could mark the tipping point, because she's not an industry rookie. She's not someone who got swept up and spit out. She's Madonna, the architect of shock, the queen of reinvention. And the irony? She may now be fighting to avoid becoming the very cautionary tale she once warned others about.
Yeah.
Why did you say no?
I didn't say no.
You didn't say yeah?
I didn't say yeah.
You said yeah on the record, but you didn't say yeah to that.
So what happens next? When Madonna walks into that courtroom again, the world won't just be listening to her words, they'll be parsing every silence, who she doesn't mention, what she leaves vague. Whether she chooses her language with a survivor's instinct or a strategist's calculation. And behind her, a long shadow, the parties, the footage, the whispered lists of who was there and who knew. Because this trial, it's not about just one man anymore. It's about the machinery that protected him, enabled him, built him up, and maybe, if we're honest, about the people who benefited by standing close without ever pulling away. Is this the moment Hollywood's glittering facade finally cracks? Could Madonna's next words trigger the industry's biggest reckoning yet? Or will the Queen of Pop find one last way to rewrite her story before it's rewritten for her? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and don't look away.